Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we started recording episodes virtually instead of being in the same room together. This created technical issues for us for many weeks. Our sound issues get better beginning with the pros and cons episode. In the meantime, we appreciate your patience with the sound issues that are present in this episode. Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and me.
Hi, guys!
Hello.
Oh, Kate, I don't know what it is. You sound louder. Yay! Hopefully you guys
Theories of technology.
really heard Kate that time. Hopefully. So today we are diving into another acronym. Shocker. And this is an acronym that is 7 letters long. I feel like I'm giving people brace yourself, everyone. 7 letters. So, I think back to please. Please was how many? 6? So this is our longest acronym so far.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So this is a big distress tolerance skill. And the name of the skill is accepts. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. And like we've done with all the other acronyms, and like we're going to continue to do with the acronyms that come after this, we're just going to break it down letter by letter with what each letter stands for and what each letter means. But it's really important before we get into talking about what each of the different letters in accepts stands for. I mean, just what this skill is really about. What it is, when would you use it, why would you use it, all of that. So I'll share some of my thoughts on that, and then, Kate, if you have stuff to add on, feel free to jump in at any point, or I'll turn it over to you at the end. But, so with accepts, because I think we talked about this already a little bit in talking about just what distress tolerance is about, which is when there are situations that are outside of your control. What can you do to make tolerating these situations a little easier? How can you take care of yourself? And accepts is really all about distraction. Now, I think it's important, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit as we go through the different components of it. But I think sometimes, at least I find for myself, it's really easy to just be on autopilot with distraction. Like if I want to distract myself, I just go on my phone and scroll through Facebook. Or I just go on my phone and I play on an app or something, which is fine. But there are, I don't know, it's, there's so many different, and I guess you could say better, more constructive, more intentional. There's so many different ways I could think of to phrase it. Just more, there's a wider variety of ways that you can distract yourself, and to have it be something that actually feels like it's maybe getting the job done. In the sense of I don't know about you, but if I just decide to scroll through Facebook for an hour, I don't really feel much better or worse from that experience. I feel about the same going into it as I did coming out of it. Sometimes I even feel worse because I'm not actually giving myself what I might need to truly distract myself from the thing that's causing me stress. I'm not really giving myself a genuine break from it. If I really think about it, I'm turning away from it for a little bit, but I'm not really actually taking care of myself in the way that I'm trying to distract myself. So accepts is really about how you can distract yourself in a way that's also taking care of yourself, and to, again, really picking from these 7 different options something that you really want to choose that can be hopefully a helpful way to just give your mind a break from focusing on the stressful thing at hand. So what are your thoughts about accepts, Kate?
Well, I think you mostly summarized what I would say. The only thing I would add is I think there's a big difference, you kind of touched on this, but between mindless distraction and mindful distraction. So mindless distraction, I feel like, is sort of at best hitting pause on whatever's going on for you. Maybe not even that. It's like you're not experiencing the break because you're so tuned out, right? And so, Michelle was saying about making this something you choose, which I think is really important, but also be present to the thing you're doing, right? It's not so much about zoning out into any of these things as it is about, this isn't even a phrase, but I'm doing it anyway, zoning in on whatever these things are. So that's kind of what I think about it. We're all distracted an unfortunate amount of the time, but that doesn't always make it a skill.
Yeah, no, I really like that you emphasize that, actually, because I think sometimes we just think about distraction as, well, let me turn away from the thing that's stressing me out. But accepts is really about, okay, what are you going to turn towards to actually take care of yourself? So that's a really good differentiation there. Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right, well, let's get going with it.
Okay, so I don't know why I feel like I have to clear my throat a lot today, so pardon me, listeners. I sound very pretentious every time I go to talk.
Like you're preparing for a speech or something.
I don't know what is in the back of my throat, but I'm sorry.
No worries.
So the A for accepts stands for activities. This one I think is the one that's sort of closest to what we're probably doing mindlessly an awful lot of the time. Because this one's so broad, right? In fact, a lot of the ones we're going to discuss in the other letters could technically also be lumped in under activities. The idea really is to do a thing, and to do a thing, though, that does require using your brain enough that you're not, like we were talking about, not zoned out, but more zoned in. So these are things that maybe you need to concentrate a little bit harder to engage in, or maybe something, like a hobby where it both uses your brain and maybe also you just get some inherent pleasure from engaging in it. But, just broadly speaking, this is do a thing that uses your mind enough that you are not mired in whatever the distress is, right? This diverts your brain, right? This diverts your attention to something else. So, I don't know, Michelle talked about scrolling through Facebook. I certainly have a couple of game apps on my phone, right? Those are probably not gonna be the things you want to go to for this activity because they're very passive. It's not that there can't be things that you take in passively that might count, but it's not really engaging your brain that much, right? If you were, I don't know, watching an educational video, right? Technically that's passive, you're taking something in, but it's engaging your brain enough that you're not just sort of, I don't know, slack-jawed, drooling, watching something on the screen, something like that. So, yeah, activities, do a thing that you need an amount of concentration and focus in order to manage doing it. And bonus points if it's things that, ideally it's things that you find engaging, that you find pleasant. So hobbies, games, etc.
Yep.
Any extra thoughts on that one, Michelle?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the main thing that stands out about activities is the active part.
There you go. Good point.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything super physically exerting. For some people, it might look like that. For me, I would say something that I do that would fall under activities for me would be going to do a Zumba class.
Yeah. I think, I guess I like watering my plants or baking. Those are both things that involve an amount of moving.
Yeah, yep, exactly. It's not we don't even like the term formal exercise, but you're moving your body. You're on your feet, you're engaged with something, and you use that term engagement a few times, which is really important. I'm trying to think about things I have a client who loves to garden. You love to garden too, Kate. Like, I think that's why people like that so much. It's a really consuming activity. You know, my husband loves to fish. I also like to fish, though I'm still quite a bit of a newbie at it. But that's something active, you know? So it's picking, yes, like Kate said, you know, it can be something that you do sitting on your couch. I mean, reading would count as this. Sure, you know, lots of things can count as this.
Puzzles like you like to do.
Yes, I love my puzzles. So yeah, there's lots of things that could fall under this, but something that either involves, using your brain or using your body. One of the two. Phones stuff doesn't really involve that too much. And some people might argue like, well, I have this app that really, really uses my brain. I mean, sure, those things exist, but maybe try to push yourself.
Language on your phone, I guess that could count, right?
That could totally count.
Lingo or whatever on their phone, that could be a thing. But
Yeah.
There's some fringe.
Yeah, exactly.
But not most things we're mostly doing most of the time.
Yep. Try to get up off your couch. I had another client who recently talked with me about like how much she enjoys just like cleaning out her truck. Like, yeah, like just feeling that sense of fulfillment with, I don't know, I may be weird, but I also get a sense of fulfillment from like cleaning my house. I find that pretty distracting. So, you know, whatever it can be. And I think back to, I don't remember how long ago I posted it. Maybe it's worth posting again. The pleasant events list that was put up in the Facebook group a while ago, I think for Please, maybe? Or no, ABC. That's what we did it for. But, you know, that may be something to look back at and try to pick something from there as an activity you can do.
Fair. All right, on to the first C, Michelle.
The first C, yes, there are 2 C's in accepts. You can use, and again, like I think a lot of, it's weird because with some DBT acronyms, they're meant to be done in an order, like with STOP, right? First you do the S, then you do the T, then you do the O, etc. Accepts is not like that. Accepts is like a menu type of skill. You can pick whatever you want in any order. So
Buffet.
a buffet. Ooh, yes. That's perfect. A buffet of DBT skills. Yes, exactly. So this just happens to be the first C, which is contributing. That's what it stands for. So contributing can look a lot of different ways, but basically the main essence behind it is that when we are contributing or giving to others in some way, this can be pretty distracting. We're focusing on that experience with that other person, and that can be something that really takes up our full attention, again, hopefully in a way that's really positive. I don't know about other people's experience with volunteer work, but whenever I have done volunteer work, it is very, very, very distracting for me. I'm really focused on the task at hand and what I'm doing in that moment. Sometimes it tends to be kind of faster paced, depending on what you're doing to contribute. But this can either look on that broader scale or a more formal way of volunteering or contributing to an organization or a cause that you really care about. Contributing can look like that. It can be something that you do on a regular basis, like every week or every month. It can look that way. It can also look like a one-time thing. It can look like helping out a friend or a family member when they have a need, like helping with childcare or bringing someone groceries, or contributing can look like that. It can also look like you can do it from your own home sometimes, though admittedly probably won't be as distracting as getting out of your house and out of your typical environment. But you can spend time online looking into a cause that you really care about, or figuring out if you can and if you want to donate money, where you can do that. And just focusing our energy outside of ourselves can be really helpful. And I think sometimes with contributing, again, because we're speaking about this in terms of distress tolerance, that it can be something where people might be like, well, I don't have much, in the tank to give to other people. I'm going through something really stressful. I need other people to be giving to me. I can't give to other people. And I think it's really important that you do it in a way that feels manageable for you, that feels doable, and is not going to overly tax yourself. But this can be really helpful. And I think sometimes, too, this can also be really healing to contribute to somebody who's maybe struggling with something that you're currently struggling with. But, this can be something like, I hear about when people have maybe gone through something with cancer or like some other type of, serious illness. And then whether they're still in it or whether they're, they've gone, what's the term I want to use? Remission. Thank you, Kate. I was like, they're in transition. No, they're in remission. Sorry about that. But whether you're in a current struggle or you're on the other side, finding people who are in that struggle with you and how you can give maybe a little bit to them can be really healing. So contributing, it can look like so many different things. I hope I'm giving some good examples there to get people's minds going of what it could look like for them personally, but it can be so helpful. And it can really take us out of our own experience temporarily, which can be something that we need sometimes, of like not just focusing on all the shit that's going wrong in my own life, but how can I focus on helping some other person's shit be a little less, that can help.
I don't know about you, Michelle, but for me, our job does that a lot.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that. Yep.
I'm like, I'm really depressed, but hey, I can help a bunch of clients with depression today, and that helps me feel a lot better.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Also, when you were talking about like the cancer or whatever, I don't know, this is a similar thought, but just a little bit sideways. Like, if the distress you're having is maybe that you just lost someone to a disease or something, helping other people or other families who have lost someone, I think that's another way that can go. And then kind of my last thought was just even like the smallest possible version. Like, grant you, in the time of, COVID, things are weird and maybe you're not doing this, but, when you're moving, if you're going out through your day, just being like, I'm going to focus today on, like, being present to the possibility of helping others, right? So whether that be opening doors or helping someone, like if you're passing someone in the, I think, grocery store parking lot, like putting away their cart for them, or, like, if you can, not everyone can financially, but, buy the coffee of a couple of people behind you in line, right? Things like that are just little ways of giving, little ways of contributing throughout your day, can be another way that this can look.
Yeah.
These kind of my thoughts.
Yep. Yeah. Fantastic. Perfect examples. Cool.
Now we're on to the second.
The second C.
All right.
You could do it, Kate.
Disclaimer: this one's tricky. Because it, to me, is in like the top 3 or 5 DBT skills that can easily go awry.
Yeah, it can be very polarizing, I feel like. People either really like this one or they hate this one.
Well, they like it or hate it, or some people just really struggle to, using these words, but quote-unquote do it right.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
If you've done wrong, it becomes a tool of shame rather than a tool of helping yourself feel better. So, the second C stands for comparisons, and the basic idea is to look at maybe someone you actually know or just other people in the world who are in a worse situation than you're in. So I guess there's 2 flavors, so I'll go through this one first, which is comparing yourself to other people, right? So the idea is to go, you know what? Yeah, I'm going through some hard shit right now, but also I can look out into the world or even look at this friend or this family member and see that they're going through an even harder time than I am. So I can take some solace from that. I can take some gratitude from that, right? Like, yes, my stuff is shitty, but it's not that shitty, and so I can have some gratitude. Maybe it's obvious, but the way that this can be misused is other people have it worse, so I don't have any right to complain. right? Like, my problems are so piddlesome. Why am I even depressed? Why am I even anxious about this? Like, other people are starving, and here I am worried that, my boss doesn't like me, right? When I have a job and a house and so the idea is certainly not to put yourself down, not to invalidate your own struggles. It's simply to find ways to have gratitude. So again, like I said, there's kind of two flavors, two ways to do comparisons. The one is comparing yourself to other people. The other way is to compare basically to yourself at other times. This may not always be true, but often when we're struggling, if we think hard enough about it, we can realize this isn't the worst I've been. Like, I have had harder times in my life. Or I've had times where I handled what was going on in my life less well, less healthfully. And so that can be a way that, again, it might be a little bit easier than comparing yourself to other people to avoid doing it wrong. The focus still is on finding some gratitude. Also, when you're comparing to yourself, it might allow you to do a little bit of, like, patting yourself on the back. Like, look, I'm handling this better than I would have if it had happened to me a year ago. Things like that. It is not a, look, lady, you've had it worse than this, so buck up and get over yourself.
Yep.
Right? That is not the idea. I feel like with comparisons, at least half of what I want to get across is what it isn't. Because it's tricky. I think that's what I would say. So, comparing yourself to other people or comparing yourself to yourself at other times are the two ideas for comparisons. And the pitfalls are, watch out that you're not invalidating yourself, that you're not putting yourself down, that you're not minimizing your own struggles, or, saying that you shouldn't even bother yourself or other people with them, right? We want to make sure that you're staying validating, you're staying kind to yourself. You're just maybe adding in a tiny bit of gratitude, and that can help you weather the hard times that are going on a little bit more easily. You have any other thoughts on that, Michelle? On that tricky one?
Yeah, I think you talked about it really well. Something that had just occurred to me while you were talking about it is because I just talked about the first C of contributing, and then you're talking about the C of comparisons. And that if we're, using comparisons, I don't even want to use the term correctly, but like you said, when it's not like being used as a shame tool.
Using it effectively?
Effectively, sure. Yeah, effectively. We'll do that. I think that works. When we're doing this effectively, it may lead to us wanting to contribute. And also I think about, this idea of community, and how I feel like sometimes when we're seeking out community for something that we might be struggling with, like whether it's through like an online forum or a support group or whatever it is, but when we're surrounding ourselves with other people who may be struggling with the same thing that we're struggling with, in the same boat that we're in, some ways I feel like that can be a healthy way to practice comparisons, is because you're hearing other people's stories. You're finding maybe the similarities in your stories, finding the differences in your stories. And, inevitably you're probably doing some comparing, and that there can be a sense of comfort that really comes from that, of hearing where, like, oh, this person and I can really relate. Oh, that person's been through, whoa, okay, but it can give us a sense that we're not alone. And I think that's the thing. If you're feeling really alone when you're practicing comparisons, try thinking of it a little differently, because I think the goal would be that it helps you feel either more positively towards yourself, like you were talking about really nicely, Kate, of like comparing your current self maybe with your past self. Then maybe it serves as an opportunity to see how you've grown. Or maybe it serves as an opportunity to realize, like, I am not alone. And yes, some people have been through things easier than me. Some people have been through things harder than me. But regardless, I'm not alone. And again, maybe how can I use my experience to consider contributing and helping people who may be in a worse spot than I am.
Nice.
So, yeah, cool. All right, on to the E. Halfway through. So the E stands for emotions, and I don't want to just summarize this really quickly and gloss over it, but go listen to our opposite action episode if you have not already. Because that's basically what the E in standing for emotion stands for in the context of this accepts skill. Why are you're laughing a little bit?
That was just a great sentence.
I'm articulate. I can do this.
It stands for standing for the E emotion.
I know. I was like, what am I trying to say here?
But it got off to a rough start, that sentence.
Yeah, I think this is rough because, like, it stands for emotions, and then it's like, but then what?
Is the thing.
Yeah.
I get it. It was just funny.
No, that's cool. So this idea here is, again, it's so much of what we talked about in our opposite action episode of when you realize that you're feeling an emotion really strongly, you know, yes, one route, which is a perfectly acceptable, great route to take if and when you can, is to give that emotion some space, to let it express itself, to get it out, more or less. And also, because accepts is talking about how you can distract yourself, if that's what you're deciding to do, the way to distract yourself emotionally is to practice some opposite action. And one of the ways that this would probably most look like with accepts is that if you're having a really hard day, maybe a day that's filled with a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, something more in that emotional family, then it may be something where it looks like you try to turn to activities or things that you can do that are going to lead to you having a different emotional experience, like finding something to make you laugh, something silly, something funny. This is the way we most commonly talk about this E here with accepts, is finding, a funny movie or finding something funny on YouTube that brings you a sense of joy.
Or books.
Or books. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, Kate's like something not screens. Good reminder. Music. Music that can make you feel really more positive, uplifted. Something that will bring you some joy temporarily is what we're searching for here with this E. So, like with activities, I mean, that can be something that I feel like maybe that's the experience that you get, is that it brings you some joy when you're doing the A part of accepts. But the E is really focused on that, of like, how can I emotionally give myself somewhat of a break here? How can I temporarily get out of this grief for a little while, when, especially if it's something that's really consuming you, or out of this anxiety that's just eating me up about what's going to happen with this, stressful situation? How can I bring a smile to my face in some way? But it really involves doing some opposite action to get there. Yeah. Anything you want to add on, Kate? Yes.
You're just so much nicer than me about how you talk about it. When I think about emotions, I think about hijacking your own nervous system. I think of it as just emotionally manipulating yourself. It's just not nearly so sweet and soothing as you talk about it. I think we say this about, I don't know, maybe 90% of DBT skills, it seems to me sometimes, but this can be a good one, I really think, where you kind of prep when you're not in the worst place. It might be really hard, if not impossible. If you're in a down enough place, you might just be like, nothing could possibly make me laugh, right? It's just impossible. Nothing sounds good. Nothing sounds funny. Nothing sounds happy, right? And it might be hard to think about a thing. So, when you're in a little bit of a better spot, it can be a good time to write a list, put it on your phone, or a sticky note. There are things that are not screens. But, so things like this, this movie always makes me laugh. Reading this thing always makes me smile. This, right? Finding things that when you're in a better mindset, you know they reliably work on you. So then you don't have to believe it to deploy it in the moment. No matter how much you're like, I can't possibly laugh right now, but you put on the thing that always makes you laugh. Like, turns out it worked. Nanner. So that, I don't know, same idea, but other than just adding in to maybe make a list of those resources for yourself when you're in a little bit of a better spot. But yeah, just, this is hijacking your own nervous system to an extent. Or, think about it a lot nicer, like Michelle does.
No, that's such a good point about the preparation piece that I hadn't mentioned, which is so true of, have that music playlist ready to go. Of like, when I want to, feel good, what's my feel good playlist? What are the movies I can watch or whatever it is? Have those things ready, because you're exactly right, Kate. In the moment, our brain is probably not going to be able to recall or want to do those things very easily. But if it's like, all right, I have it right here,
yes.
Then it makes it a little easier.
Put it on anyway.
Yep. Put it on anyway. Just see what happens. And see how distracted you feel with it. So,
yeah.
Cool.
All right, are we on to P?
Yes.
That sounded more awkward than I thought it would. Sorry. Still in elementary school, apparently. So the P for accepts is pushing away. A lot of this, I think, for me, this part of the acronym, I think is the one that the most acknowledges we're not always in a place where we can do stuff, right? Like, we might be feeling overwhelmed by grief, or, mired in anxiety, or, weighed down by depression in times and places where we just can't deal with it. It'd be inappropriate. It would, maybe get us in trouble at our job. It would, we're scare the children we're around, right? Whatever. Like, we just can't do it. And so the P for pushing away is basically about shelving whatever is coming up for you in the moment. This can look a lot of different ways. For those of you who have a really visual imagination, a really visual way of thinking about things, well, you're in luck, because we're going to do this in the clothing moment later. Preview. But you can sort of literally visualize putting the thing on a shelf, putting it in a pocket, putting it in a box, doing something with it where it's, out of sight for the moment. In a more, people who don't visualize things as much or things like that, you might just sort of tell yourself, not right now, but I'll come back to this later. Which I think is the most important, at least as important as pushing it away, is don't leave it up on the shelf forever. That closet's going to get full and ugly really fast. So part of pushing it away is a commitment to bring it back later, right? Pushing away is not stuffing, right? Stuffing is kind of a permanent, nope, I'm just tamping that down, I'm not looking at it, fingers in my ears, la 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 la, right, not gonna go there. Pushing away is, what, I can't right now, so I'm gonna, take this another place for the moment, but when I get home, or when the kids go to bed, or when, I'm not at my friend's wedding, I don't know, places where it might be, problematic to, I don't know, do the thing that your emotions are wanting or needing in the moment. After that, I'm going to bring this back, and I'm going to allow the emotions to have some space. Amusingly, Michelle, just as I was just saying that, I feel like push away actually can sort of segue into the part you were talking about with emotions. Mm-hmm. But there's an interim step of actually feeling the things, giving them a space for a minute. Right, so maybe push them away, you give the emotions some space when it's okay to do so, and then maybe you can segue into one of these other skills. I just think emotions because it's the last one you said. But, segue into one of these other things to then exit out again, but in a way that leaves the emotions acknowledged, rather than just shelving and trying to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my... how I think about it. What about you?
Yeah, I think about it in much the same way. DBT tries to make these acronyms. Good job, DBT. But yeah, the P, as I think about it within accepts, is really kind of like this preliminary step to then allow you to do the other things. To then, first push away to then be able to do the activity you want to do, or then be able to contribute, or then to do something to tend to your emotions, or give yourself a break from the tough thing that you've been feeling. Push away it kind of feels like this intermediate step, and I don't know, I struggle with the fact that they phrase it as push away. Push sounds like so forceful. It really does. Like, push it away. Just get over there. Which is not really the intention behind it. But yeah, I mean, it really is kind of making this mental choice, like you're talking about really nicely, Kate, to shelve it for a little while. I think sometimes pushing away can also, depending on the person, depending on the context, how much time you have, that kind of a thing. People writing down like worries before bed of just kind of like, I'm going to put these worries on the list and then I'm going to go to sleep. Or, journaling can, I think, sometimes look this way, depending. Journaling can look very much like, okay, I'm diving into my emotional experience. Or it can look very much like I am putting my emotional experience here and then I'm going to walk away. For a little bit. So I don't know. I wish it was more called like walk away instead of push away.
Place gently somewhere else.
There you go. Yeah. Place it to the side to then come back to it. But yeah, in some ways we have to first do this to then be able to fully distract ourselves with some of these other things we're talking about. So yeah, cool. All right. We're going to move on to the T. The T, which is, I don't know, my favorite out of these.
My favorite.
That's my favorite. We both like it a lot. Because it works, you guys. And it's a way to distract ourselves that I think a lot of people don't think about. And the T stands for thoughts. And basically what it is how can you, I don't want to use the term overwhelm, but how can you give your brain something taxing to think about that's going to be consuming enough that you're not going to be focusing on that thing that's been stressing you out for days and weeks? How can you really exert mental energy here? And so the way that we do this in our DBT groups, which we encourage you to do, yeah, Kate's making a sad face because we can't do it with you guys.
It's my favorite thing.
It's a fun activity to do in group, and you guys can totally do it on your own time and see how it works. But what we have them do is basically pull out a piece of paper and a pen, and we tell them to make a list of as many 4-letter words that start with L that they can think of. As many as they can think of. And we give them, I don't know, maybe even 2 minutes.
5. Oh, maybe less.
I don't know. It feels like it always goes by really fast.
It does.
But we give them a certain length of time, not terribly long. Yeah, probably about 5 minutes. And we just say, make a list. Do as many as you can. And then people, start feverishly writing, or we see them sitting there thinking before they start writing on their page. Some people get a really long list. Some people get a really short list. It is not about how many you can come up with. It's not a competition. It's not a race. But we ask them at the end of it, we go, now, were you thinking about anything else while you were doing that? And I don't think we've had a single person yet in all the years we've been doing this in group who has said, oh yeah, I was also thinking about my grocery list, or I was also thinking about, this conversation I need to have with my partner later tonight, or everyone's like, no. I wasn't. They were solely focused on just thinking about 4-letter words that start with L. So that's one example of how this can look.
There's something like 298 of them or something.
Oh my gosh.
English language. There's a lot. You're not going to get to the end. I promise.
Yeah, that's a ton. And if you do this on your own, you can do it for as long as you want to. You can do it with any letter of the alphabet that you want to, or any length of word. You can pick 3 letters, 5 letters. You can do 5-letter words that start with F. I don't know. You can do it with anything, but yes, I said F, Kate. We're so mature today, you guys. But it's one of those things that the goal is that your brain is so focused, you're not thinking about anything else. So this can look like, for me, I really gravitate towards these things, which I didn't even realize that I did, but I really like word searches, Sudoku. Kate hates Sudoku, as we've talked about before. But I really like it. And I think part of it is because of this. When I'm so focused on the puzzle in front of me, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking about that. It's very distracting. It's very all-consuming. I think this is part of why I do like puzzles. If it's a really hard puzzle, I'm not thinking about anything else. Sometimes if it's a really easy puzzle, my brain can still wander. And that's the goal of this, is to pick a task that's going, we don't want it to be horribly stressful for you, but thinking about a task that's hard enough that it really doesn't leave much space in your brain to worry or think about something else. If, you're doing a really easy puzzle that, your brain is left free to wander, 10% of your brain's focusing on the puzzle, the other 90% of your brain's focusing on something else, it's not hard enough for the purposes of what we're talking about here. That may be very relaxing and calming, cool, but if the goal is to distract yourself, pick something that's going to challenge you. What do you talk about sometimes, Kate? Counting backwards by threes?
Backwards by increasing prime numbers.
Oh, yeah. From like 100?
So, yeah, I think from 100 or 1,000. I don't know, you pick. But yeah, so you go back by 1, 3, 5, 7, and that's how far I
11.
Think really hard.
13.
17.
See, we're already thinking about it so much that I'm like, wait, hold on. What have I said?
No, so that's the other one that I think. And I hate numbers. I hate them. But I promise you, you're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah,
You're trying to remember, all right, what number am I on now? What's the next prime number? Now doing the math for that, and then holding that up. Anyway,
yeah. Pick whatever task you want. If prime numbers is too hard, do it by evens or odds, or, this is like the idea of saying the alphabet backwards, or I think what people honestly say, like the most stereotypical, this is how you calm down technique out there is count to 10. I think what people are honestly kind of hoping for out of that is that your brain's going to pause enough about the thing you're worrying about to then your brain's going to shift to counting. That's not probably going to take up too much mental energy. So again, it may give you a brief pause. That's cool. But again, if the goal is to distract yourself, think about something a little more challenging than that. Your pick of what that looks like, but
in America, list all 50 states.
Yeah, and their capitals, which I can't do anymore.
No.
I could do it in 4th grade. Not anymore. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Think about anything that uses your brain power and make it a task that, again, you might not need to do for too long. If you do it for too long, you might get a headache or wear yourself out. So pick a set length of time to do it. 30 minutes is probably plenty. You can go longer if you want, but try it out. We can almost guarantee that if you're picking something, hard enough for your unique brain that you have, you will be wholly distracted.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else to tack on?
Added thoughts to that other than to say, because it's my favorite thing, and it is of all of the more complicated and interesting and whatever. I went to school to learn this shit stuff that I give to clients. I think the 4-letter L words is the thing I get the most constant positive feedback about, which cracks me up. But the cool thing about a lot of these too, Michelle I don't think you quite mentioned, is that a lot of these are, for lack of a better word, completely portable. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to be, puzzles, that's harder. You have to sit down, you have to look at it, you have to be doing a thing. But a lot of these, because they're so mental, you can do them wherever you are. You can be sitting in a doctor's waiting room trying to think of as many 4-letter L words as you can, right? You don't actually even have to write them down, right? Same thing with a lot of the math stuff, or trying to list countries, or capitals, or continents, or seas, or who cares, right? Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do that no one from the outside has to know or see or have any idea that you're doing. And you can do pretty much literally anywhere, anytime. And so that, I think, is another cool thing, just kind of in general about a lot of the things that fit into this skill, is that you may not have to stop entirely wherever you are or whatever else you're doing to an extent. I don't know about you, but I could be sauteing onions and still have that doesn't use any of my brain. I could be doing the rest, some sort of distraction technique while doing that, things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my only other thought is, yay, portability.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to hone in on because, yeah, the activities and the contributing, that's not so portable. Like we said, that can be pretty short term if you want it to be. And you also can't just do it at the drop of a hat. But comparisons, that's, comparisons, even emotions, push away thoughts. These are things that you can hopefully do almost anytime, anywhere, to some extent or another.
Which is
So.
nice.
Yep, cool. On to the S, the last one.
Last letter. So S is sensations. I do want to sort of, I guess give a sneak preview because coming up, we're going to be doing self-soothing with the 5 senses for next week, I think, something like that. But that is very much about soothing. Sensations is not, right? When it comes
About
to
distraction.
It's about distraction, which generally means the suggestions for this one are not strictly pleasant. In fact, they're often strictly unpleasant. Just meant to be more pleasant than the overwhelming distress that you are ostensibly feeling going into it. So there's a lot of different ones here. A lot of the tip stuff that we mentioned, I don't remember how long ago would fall into the, these things, putting your hands or your face or anything really in ice water, holding ice in your hand as it melts, getting into a cold shower here could count, listening to really loud, maybe abrasive music, not too loud, don't make yourself go deaf, right, but, loud abrasive music could count here. Some people recommend, like, wearing a rubber band and snapping it on your wrist or your arm. So there's a lot of different ideas here, but the overarching idea is just to utilize intense and honestly often unpleasant emotional sensations to kind of knock you out of the state of overwhelm that you are in from the grief or sadness or fear or anger or whatever that you're in from whatever distress you're needing to tolerate. So I don't have a lot actually to say about that one other than be safe. That's more important than anything else. So, right, don't deafen yourself with music. Don't, I don't even know what, give yourself a frostbite in your hand. I don't know. Right, don't hurt yourself. And I also think of these as, I don't know, this one isn't a long-term solution. This one is, again, a derailment that then I think can kind of get you in a place where maybe you can use one of the longer-term ones. So, in that sense, a little bit similar to push away.
Mm-hmm.
So push away is not inherently unpleasant. I think most of these are. Right, so this is kind of a knock your brain off of a track and maybe get you in a place where you can utilize other skills, either other accept skills or other DBT skills as needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree with that. I think what's also really important about sensations here is this isn't going to work so well if you're not using your mindfulness skills. Because, yeah, you can hop in a cold shower. Cool. But if, at least I think for most people, showering does not take a lot of mental energy. And like we were talking about with the T for thoughts, you want to pick something that's going to take up a lot of space in your brain so that you're distracted temporarily. And if you go through the motions of doing something that, is sensational, sensationally.
The sensation's supposed to be like shocks. Right?
Yeah, yes.
Sensation's supposed to be a shock.
Exactly.
In some way.
Yeah, it's supposed to shock your system, and if you're not paying attention to that in a mindful way, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck, you could put it. One thing that Kate and I did, this was years ago now, but I still always remember it, is we sometimes bring in sour candies to our groups. Airheads are a good one. I really like sour candies, so it takes a lot for this sensations idea to actually work for me because I'm just like, oh, this tastes good, But we brought in some sour candies, and again, we told people to eat the sour candy, to really notice it, to be mindful of it, and then again, ask them the same question, were you thinking of anything else, or just kind of how well do you think this would work for you in the real world? And one participant in the group said, like, that was the first time my brain has stopped in a long time when she did that. And I've heard also that this can be a helpful way to stop smoking. I am not a doctor. I do not know any research on this, but I worked at a grocery store a long time ago, and I had a couple customers actually who bought sour candy in large quantities. And I would notice this, and at one point I was just kind of like, you're buying a lot of candy. And they were just kind of like, yeah, it helps me with quitting smoking. Because they would eat the candy, and I don't know if it just kind of like filled some kind of sensory thing or what, or if it was just distracting. But, you know, so you can do this with like hot or spicy foods. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do this. But yeah, I think it's kind of maybe... yeah, it's not going to feel pleasant, but more of a unique way to try to distract yourself, because we can distract ourselves mentally, but this is a way to distract yourself physically with sensations. So, something to try. Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
What's our homework, Michelle?
Homework is pretty simple. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this is like a menu. You can do as many or as few of these as you want in any particular order. This is really something to experiment and play around with what fits for you. So I would encourage you guys as your homework to pick one of these to try. I'm also going to say, I don't know, I don't want to hate on the A in accepts, and also most of us probably have that already. That's probably something that most of us, if you don't, then I would encourage you to play around and figure something out, but most of us hopefully have some kind of an activity that's pretty distracting that we're already doing. I would encourage you to maybe think about picking one from the other 6 that maybe you have not tried before or haven't done in a long time, to think about how you can use that as a way to distract yourself, again, from a stressful situation that you can't do much about changing. How can you tolerate it? So, yeah.
Cool.
All right, cool. Closing, email. Oops.
I was gonna say.
Email us. I almost forgot. I was about to say closing moment. dbtandmepodcast@gmail.com. Send us emails.
Maybe tell us how well using the 4-letter L words work.
Yeah, try that out. Try it out. I'm going to be posting probably many prompts in the Facebook group to encourage people to experiment and play around with these. So, yeah.
All right, let's see if I can make it through a closing moment without having to clear my throat.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, now closing moments.
Lemmy today. I don't know why. Oh, well.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okie dokie, everybody. So, as per usual, I'm just going to begin by finding a comfortable position to sit or stand or lay down. Allow yourself to relax. If you feel comfortable and safe doing so, you can go ahead and close your eyes. I'm going to begin by just tuning into our breath. You don't have to breathe any more deeply or any more slowly than you do naturally. It's just about paying attention. Just about noticing your breath, how and where you feel it, and letting the sensations of your breath bring you into your body, and into the present moment. And now, I'd like for you to picture yourself standing in front of a table or desk or workbench, some kind of solid surface. And now, I'd like you to bring to mind something you're struggling with right now. Not anything too big right now, not anything too overwhelming, but a situation that is causing you distress. And as you think about that situation, as you allow the thoughts and the feelings and maybe the sensations around it to come to mind, to show up in your body, I'd like you to picture that issue, that struggle, that problem, as somehow taking physical form on the desk or workbench or table in front of you in your vision. It can be a color or a light or an object or a person or an animal, no limitations. Just that for you, in some way, it is a visual embodiment of whatever this is that you're struggling with. Once you have that firmly in your mind, I'd like you to now begin to picture building a box on that table. The only things that are necessary is that this box be big enough in which to put that physical embodiment of your problem, and that it feel like a place where you can safely put it, where you can really lock it away and trust that it'll stay. It won't come out. It'll be locked away until you decide to get it out again. So give yourself a couple of moments to do this. Really construct what this box is. What is it made of? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do you know that it's safe? Does it latch? Does it lock? When it's closed, does it not even have a visible opening until you choose to have it there? Whatever works for you. Whatever is appealing. Once you have your box built on the table, I'd like you to go ahead and open it up and place your issue, your problem, your distress into that box. Place it into the box and then close it. Now you know it's in there. You know that it's safe. You know that it's not going to get out. And you also know that you can get it out when you next need or want to. So, once you have it in the box, and the box firmly shut, I invite you to go ahead and put that box up on a shelf. Not too far out of reach, not somewhere you can't find it again, but just an embodiment of allowing it to stop taking up space for your present moment. Once you have your box up on your shelf, I do want you to take a moment and make a commitment to yourself that at some time in the near future, you are going to get it down, you're going to open it up, and you're going to give that distressing issue or problem the tiny space that it deserves. Just for now, leave it away. Once you've done all that, I suggest you can allow that vision to fall away from your mind. And begin to come back into your body. You might take a couple of slow deep breaths. You might rotate your neck, shoulders, wrists or ankles. Whatever feels good, whatever your body needs. And then I'll let you come back into the room. Then when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group.